everyone, to Works in Process. I'm Laura Heywood, and I'm so glad that Caroline made the joke about chill and cold because I was struggling with how to address that. I've been using hashtag #BeMoreWarm today, but in this room, we certainly are surrounded by some pretty chill folks. I want to introduce Joe Iconis, Joe Tracz, Stephen Brackett, and Chase Brock, the creative team behind Be More Chill. So Be More Chill starts with this, the book by Ned Vizzini. Joe Iconis, I know that you were given this book by your agent, and that's where the story begins. Can
Correct.
you give the crowd a little more information about what came next?
I cannot. No.
This is going to be a long night.
Yeah, for sure. So my agent, Scott Chaloff is his name. He read Be More Chill by the late, great Ned Vizzini, and he loved the book, and he thought that I would respond to it. And so he gave it to me not in a, we want to option this and turn it into a musical kind of way. He just sort of said, you know, I read this book, it reminded me of you. Read it and just see if it inspires anything. And so I read it, and of course, the first thing that I thought of when I read it was, we should option this and turn this into a musical. I immediately responded to the characters in the book. I loved how it was dealing with these sort of these archetypes, these like high school archetypes, and then sort of turning the archetypes on their heads. You know, like these characters you thought you knew, but were far more complex than you'd ever expect upon first look. So I loved that. I loved how it talked about huge issues that teenagers deal with, that adults deal with through the lens of science fiction, and so it was something I was immediately excited about. And so I said, yeah, I definitely want to turn this thing into a musical, and I need a collaborator. I need someone to write the book, the script, and the person who I thought of was Joe Tracz, who was a writer that I was a fan of for a while, but had never actually met, and we had never worked together. And Joe Tracz shared an agent with me, and he put us together, and we had a meeting.
It was like a date.
It was like a date. Yeah, it was the musical theater writer version of a first date, and I mean, clearly it went very well because this is the having a musical is the musical theater a writer version of having a child, and so our baby's going to Broadway. So yeah.
Aww.
Yeah. Guggenheim first.
I'm so glad you mentioned science fiction because we actually have a bioethicist here who's going to join us a little bit later, Dr. Robert Klitzman from Columbia, and he's going to talk to us about how this might be less fictional than we thought it was, which kind of like gave me a shiver when I heard it, but I think the discussion is going to be really fascinating. So Joe Tracz, when you heard this idea, Joe Iconis was already on board. Had you read the book? Were you familiar with it?
Yeah, I hadn't read this, but I'd read other books by Ned and knew that he was a writer whose voice really spoke to people. He wrote honestly and humorously about what it means to be young, and his work really connected with the audiences who maybe weren't seeing their lives represented on the page. And you know, I felt like if we can do that as a musical, we'll have something really special in our hands. You know, I was a huge fan of Joe's work, and especially I knew Joe. You know, the stuff I'd seen of his often used genre, but he used genre to tell really human stories. So even though you had the fun of seeing someone that was like a Western on stage, the core of it was a sense of these people as being fully dimensional people. You know, and sort of using the sort of fun genre to Trojan horse something really huge and about how we live our lives.
So once you went on that date and decided you liked each other, what comes next? Do you storyboard? Do you like go through chapter by chapter and think, what about this works for stage? What about this does not?
We literally made note cards of like things from the book that like we definitely wanted to include in the show, and then we like showed each other our note cards and had written like all the same things. So, but, we've been working the show since 2011, 2012. So, the show has gone through many changes over the years. But I just went back, sort of going to Broadway makes you nostalgic. So going back to some of those early notes from like our first story meetings at like coffee shops. And the core of the show has remained the same, and the sort of the big story turns and ideas, have been the same. And in fact, deepening those things, sort of going back to those core story points. has been a big part of the sort of Broadway journey. Like how to not change the story we're telling, but how to tell the story we've wanted to tell all along even better.
I'm so glad that you still have those notes and cards because they're going to end up in the Smithsonian one day.
I deleted on the first day of our off-Broadway rehearsal. I accidentally deleted the entire folder on my computer. I was dragging something to my trash bin, and I dragged my entire Be More Chill folder and emptied my trash bin before I realized it. But thank God, email, like you say, I sent everything to Joe and vice versa. So I was able to like recreate that folder by like going through 7 years of emails.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that that anecdote has a happy ending. I was about to freak out. So one of the things that I love most about this show and its journey is that so much of it has been or become public. I know it takes forever to get a show to Broadway, but for audiences, often it just pops up like this new show, and I think a lot of audiences aren't aware of all the steps it takes. But because of the unique journey that Be More Chill took, where it looked like it was done after the Two Rivers production in 2015, and then all of these other steps were very not just documented on social media, but inspired by social media, we've really gotten to see how much work has gone into it at every phase. Stephen, when did you get brought on board?
So I came on board for the Two River production. The Joes had already known that Two River was going to produce their show, and they were looking for a director. The three of us had all met at a theater called Ars Nova, and so I had known both of them, and I was working on another project with Joe Tracz, and I kind of knew about Be More Chill, and was like, God, I hope they asked me to come in an interview for that. And so
even though your name isn't Joe.
Even though my name isn't Joe, right? Hopefully they're looking for somebody not named Joe to round out the team. So I went in and had a meeting with the Joes and the artistic director of Two River, and we just shared some similar sensibilities about how we wanted the show to feel, what we might want the show to look like. I think we all had ideas about not only the depth of feeling and the kind of like raucousness of the sci-fi, but we also wanted to like radiate a palpable joy in the production, and that was something that we I think bonded over the theatricality of it and what it could potentially do. And so I was lucky enough for them to fold me into the collaboration at that point.
Mm-hmm. And then Chase, you were brought on at what point?
I also did the Two River production, and I got an email maybe sometime in December, I think, of 2014 from Annika Chapin, who had been a longtime friend of mine, who was the like the literary manager of Two River Theater, and she talked about the joy that you were just talking about, and said, you know, I've been watching your work for years and thinking maybe we would one day do something together, and it feels like you might have access to really figure out what would be the heartbeat of sort of high school kids in New Jersey who take Japanese supercomputers as pills that teach them how to be chill. And so, and she sent demos of Joe's songs, and I think a script as well, and it was so excellent immediately that I was like, sign me up, and we had a meeting and kind of got along famously, I think.
Yeah, Chase brought in all of these inspiration points into our meeting, and when he showed me Peanuts characters, I was like, yes, I love this guy, and then he showed me, what's the name of that jump style dancing?
Oh, yeah.
So it was a combination of like Peanuts characters and then
like Belgian rave dancing, because you know teenagers watch this stuff on YouTube and learn how to do it.
It was like such a glorious like glimpse into a like artist's brain, and I was like, absolutely, I need all of this and need it now. So yeah, it was pretty immediate with Chase that I was excited about finding that collaborator.
I was really excited to see the choreography in the show because there's something about it that's so expressionistic, and while all the characters are doing at certain moments the same moves together in unison, it also feels like each one of them is expressing their own personal journey in those unified movements, and I think that to find those steps that allow each actor and character to demonstrate their inner journey, it's really remarkable and something I'm not sure I've ever seen before.
Thank you so much. We've been working really consciously on that, I think, for the whole 3 years, and we are working on that now. Like we continued today working on moments like that, and I think we are all trying to find room to try and tell each character's story as fully as possible. So that extends to the movement as well.
I know that you have deep love for Martha Graham and for Fosse. Did you find any points to nod to them in your choreography on the show, or did you go more YouTube generation?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely looked at the biggest sort of expressionist thing was to really try to find what the vocabulary of a supercomputer would be, and you know, the Squip, and once people have been squipped, they've taken this pill, what would we sort of see in their subtext movement-wise? And there's this great exchange where two of the characters realize that they have there's a line that says like, you guys have a connection, it's just digital. And so I was looking at Liquid and Digits movement, which is essentially a hip-hop style from LA from the mid-90s that is really making images with your fingers. And so that, I think, we did go more of a sort of, video or hip-hop generation. But yeah, my love for Martha Graham is deep, deep, deep. Agnes DeMille is actually my favorite theater choreographer, and I think we actually have a sort of, I don't want to give anything away, but there's a new moment that is a sort of slower, more expressionist movement that I think does reach back.
Well, speaking of slower moments, there is a heartbreaking song called Michael in the Bathroom that has really become a standout. It was one of the earliest numbers from Be More Chill to show up on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And it had a big part, I think, in inspiring the social media, I almost want to call it a wave, like a tidal wave of social media support.
It's a good thing to call it. Yeah.
And I am really excited that George Salazar, who plays Michael Mell, is here to sing Michael in the Bathroom for us.
Yeah.
And Joe, will you do us the honor of accompanying him?
I will, Laura, I will.
Thank goodness, because otherwise I was going to have to do it.
Aren't these guys so smart? Just the best. I am hanging in a bathroom at the biggest party of the fall. I could stay right here or disappear, and nobody'd even notice at all. I'm a creeper in a bathroom, 'cause my buddy kinda left me alone. But I'd rather fake pee than stand awkwardly or pretend to check a text on my phone. Everything felt fine when I was half of a pair. Now through no fault of mine, there's no other half there. Now I'm just Michael in the bathroom at a party. Forget how long it's been, I'm just Michael in the bathroom, Michael in the bathroom at a party. No, you can't come in, I'm waiting it out till it's time to leave, and picking at grout as I softly grieve. I'm just Michael, who you don't know, Michael flying solo, Michael in the bathroom by himself, all by himself. I am hiding, but he's out there just ignoring all our history. Memories get erased, then I'll get replaced with a newer, cooler version of me. And and I hear a drunk girl sing along to Whitney through the door. I wanna dance with somebody and my feelings sink, 'cause it makes me think now there's no one to make fun of drunk girls with anymore. Now it's just Michael in the bathroom, Michael in the bathroom at a party. I half regret the beers. Michael in the bathroom, Michael in the bathroom at a party. As I choke back the tears, I'll wait as long as I need till my face is dry, or I'll just blame it on weed or something in my eye. I'm just Michael, who you don't know, Michael flying solo, Michael in the bathroom by himself. Knock, 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 they're gonna start to shout soon. Knock, 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 oh hell yeah, I'll be out soon. Knock, 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 it sucks he left me here alone. Knock, 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 here in this teenage battle zone. Clang, 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 I feel the pressure blowing up. Bang, 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 my big mistake was showing up. Splash, 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 I throw some water in my face and I am in a better place. I go to open up the door, but I can't hear knocking anymore. I can't help but yearn for a different time. And then I look in the mirror and the present is clearer, and there's no denying I'm just at a party. Is there a sadder sight than Michael in the bathroom at a party? This is a heinous night. I wish I stayed at home in bed watching cable porn, or wish I off myself instead. Wish I was never born. I'm just Michael, who's a loner, so he must be a stoner. Rides a PT Cruiser, God, he's such a loser. Michael flying solo, who you think that you know? Michael in the bathroom by himself, all by himself, all by himself. All you know about me is my name. Awesome party, I'm so glad I came.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
George
George
got it!
Salazar. Woo! Thanks, George. All right, I feel like we could spend an hour and a half just talking about that song. Have you ever seen anybody act a song from every follicle of hair down to every toenail? George Salazar is one of the greatest actors I've ever seen.
He's perfect.
He's amazing, yeah.
And in that number,
He's amazing. When you write a song, you dream of it being performed by a performer like that, and rarely does it happen that you find like a performer who's so just matches with the material, and it's amazing. It's really insane to see. I feel so grateful and lucky that he sings my stuff.
Yeah, we've had the luxury of hearing him sing that song a lot, and it never ceases to surprise me and electrify me, and that kind of alchemy of artist and song is, when it's right, it's so like perfect, right? And we've been really, really lucky to find a collaborator in George who has really helped show us all of the aspects of that song.
I've gotten to see that song performed multiple times as well. I didn't get to see Two River, but I did go a few times at Second Stage, plus at 54 Below and various other venues. And I noticed something tonight that I'd never noticed before, which was that there's that moment when there aren't any lyrics. And I've always gravitated toward that point in the song, because I'm like, oh, that's like an unusual choice. But this time I was like, oh, he's so upset he can't get the words out. And I was worried that I was going to be choked up when my mic turned back on because it made it even that much more relatable. Joe, I'd love for you to just talk for a second about that decision not to put lyrics in those couple of measures, because I think it's so clever and so rare. I don't know that I've ever seen that before.
Yeah. I love that you gravitated toward that. I think it's exactly as you said. It's sort of towards the end of the song, and he says, "There's no denying I'm just," and then he doesn't say anything, and the music goes da 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 da. And my hope was that by that point in the song, you've heard that refrain, "Michael in the bathroom," so many times that as you watch it, you kind of sing it to yourself and then realize that, oh, I'm singing it in my own brain, Michael in the bathroom, but he's not singing it. Why is he not singing it? Oh, right, he can't get the words out because he's so upset and so just kind of disgusted with himself. And I love the idea of Michael in that moment realizing that, oh, the way everyone sees him is that. The way everyone sees him is just this sidekick, stoner loser in a bathroom, and that's the truth, because all of us, everyone watching it in the theater, is singing in their heads, "Michael in the bathroom." It's like, yeah, we know who you are, and I think it's so hurtful to him to realize that, oh, everyone. It's like everyone, I feel like in that moment, I always imagine Michael's looking in a mirror. I think like he can like see through the mirror, and he just sees an audience full of people just looking at him, just taking pity on him, and that upsets him so much that he can't even make sound.
But at the same time, every person in the audience, by making them realize they're singing too, it's like, I know that song.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
that feeling.
Yeah.
In his loneliest moment, he is not at all alone. I just gave myself goosebumps. This leads me right into the question of casting, because I think the cast that you have chosen everyone is so perfect in their role, and in many cases they differ from the physical descriptions given in the book.
For sure.
For example, the character George is playing is described as a tall, lanky white guy with a big white guy afro. And Christine Canigula, who we're going to see in a minute, Stephanie Hsu is playing Christine Canigula, and she's described in the book as a sort of tall, ditzy blonde. And I'm wondering how you came to the casting process and to find these perfect actors. You clearly didn't use just the descriptions from the text.
For sure, yeah. I mean, I can speak on that a little bit. A lot of the people who are in Be More Chill are folks who I have known and worked with for years and years and years. So I've worked with George for years. I've worked with Will Roland, who we'll see pretty soon, for years, and a bunch of other people. I have this group called Iconis and Family, and we do sort of musical theater concerts and stuff like that. And it's actors and singers and musicians who all perform together, and they perform my stuff, which is why it's called Iconis and Family. And so the thing that is true about all the people in that group is that all the actors are actors who are they're sort of weird, for lack of a better word, and we use that word as a source of pride. There's something a little bit off about them. They're your run-of-the-mill type of people. They're not the people that you think of when you think of the sort of actor who's normally in a musical, or the sort of actor who's normally the leading man or the leading lady of a musical. I love working with actors who look like real people. I love working with actors who are unusual and don't all look like each other, because I've found in life, not everyone looks like each other. I love seeing people on a stage I love seeing a cast on a stage that is reflective of the world that we walk about in, right? And so that's sort of the guiding principle behind the folks that I like to work with. So there's some people like that, and then there was a whole bunch of people who came into the audition room who I'd never worked with before, who we found through just straight up classic musical theater auditions.
Yeah, I mean, I think we gravitated towards singular people, right? We gravitated towards people who filled in the blanks of the characters on the page in an interesting way that kind of sparked a sensation in us, right? And we made all of your family come in and audition for us too, right? Our first round is we're like, let's see everybody, right? And so it really was a combination of making sure that we wanted to prevent present diversity on stage, not only racial diversity, but body diversity on stage. That was really important to us. And we wanted to provide ins for people to see themselves reflected on the stage. And for me, that always happens when you find that person that can bring a singularity to a part that doesn't make a part feel generic, but makes a part feel like they're totally written for them, right? And so we were really lucky to see some really talented people, and it just became very clear the people that we were sparking to, and have created our own family out of all of those people.
Joe, Trace, do you have any sense of how those specific casting choices have affected or encouraged this tidal wave of fandom that is happening?
Because some of these people have been with the show for 4 or 5 years, really the characters are as much theirs as they are what I put on the page or what was in the book, because they know them inside and out. And what was so exciting when we started realizing the show had a fandom is that the fandom didn't just center on Jeremy, the main character, or Michael, the character who has that great second act song, but that people saw themselves in every single character on stage, and someone said, I'm a Christine or I'm a Jake, but that people were seeing the sort of depth of humanity in every single person. And and we felt that when we made it the first time, that every character felt like they could have been the protagonist of the story, because even the people who feel like, and this is true for high school as well as adult life, the people who seem on the surface as if they have everything together. They don't have any issues. You scratch below the surface and you find out they're feeling the same feelings you are. You say we're all Michael in the bathroom. Even the people you don't think are Michael in the bathroom have been Michael in the bathroom. And the fact that our audience was identifying that and responding to that and seeing the humanity of everyone on that stage, I think it speaks to the cast we had who made them see the characters in such dimension.
What was the arc, if you can look back on how that social media, it was YouTube, it was Tumblr, and then when did you guys start being aware that your show maybe hadn't ended with the New Jersey run?
We spent years trying to find the patient zero, but it seems that there isn't. It seems like it was something that happened organically across, not through one person, but through many people, not unlike the supercomputer in the show. It spreads,
Or any
yeah,
addictive
exactly.
thing.
Yeah, that it was just something that sort of happened organically in many different places, and sort of people, through word of mouth. There was no promotional push behind it, no marketing team saying, hey, you should check out this album. We did the show in 2015. Two River and Ghostlight Records were amazing enough to preserve that production.
Thank
cast
goodness.
Album. Yeah, had the foresight to say this is something that we want to have live on, and and cast albums often don't live on. They may be collected by collectors, or the people who remembered and loved that show in its initial run, but for a show to be discovered by so many people, thanks to Spotify, thanks to YouTube, and have those people organically tell other people, I think this is something you will connect to. That's really how it happened.
So here's the lore that I have heard, and you can tell me whether this is correct. I heard that the social media excitement inspired a college professor to put it on as a show at their school, and people from around the world started flying in to see it because they'd fallen in love with the music. And then that professor saw how excited everyone was and snapped up the commercial rights and then brought it to New York.
That is a version of the truth.
That's like the tweet length version.
I love that. Yeah, I understand how you got there, though.
Can you give us the more nuanced version?
I can give you the most nuanced version of a very brambly story. So essentially, what happened was we opened in Two River in June of 2015. We thought the show was going to go on. It did not. The show was dead. We recorded our cast album. The cast album came out. A few people were into it, as many people as are into cast albums, which is not very many people in the grand scheme of things. And that sort of played its course in 2015. That was it. In the spring of 2017, that is when all of this sort of viral business started happening, where people started discovering the album. We don't know why. Tracz and I were getting tagged in like Instagram fan art and tweets, and both of us were so confused. We were like, why are people tagging us in things about Be More Chilled? Are you doing something with Be More Chilled? No. Are you doing something with Be More Chilled? No. Just no one had any idea what was going on. And so then over the summer of 2017, it started getting huger and huger and huger and huger. And then we were like, oh my gosh, there's something going on here. You know, we definitely felt it. And I tried desperately to get producers, anyone interested in doing the show on a stage again. And no one was. Understandably, because everyone that I went to and was like, you don't understand, our Spotify numbers are huge. These producers were sort of like, okay, that's cute, I guess, but that doesn't mean it's what. Yes, essentially yes. What is Spotify? is the answer that we got from most people. And so that was all happening, right? And then in the fall of 2017, a community theater in New Jersey did Be More Chill. And this was the first production of Be More Chill that happened since the sort of viral sensation stuff happened, right? And so now this was just a community theater production. And that was where people from all over the world came, and it was like this insane rock concert. They sold out a 1,000-seat theater for 5 performances. They invited a bunch of the original cast and myself to come do a talk back after this performance, and so we went. We needed security when we were there. It was truly like the Beatles.
Seriously?
Yes, they shut down a whole block because there were so many hundreds of screaming fans at this community theater production of Be More Chill. And what was insane was that at this time, we all thought the show was dead. We thought that there was no chance of this show ever moving on with any of us original people involved. And so it was amazing, but also it was really sad. And I went to that and I was just like, I can't believe that no producer will take a chance on this thing when I see hundreds upon hundreds of people clamoring for it. Mm-hmm. But nobody would. And so it was a really strange time. So I'm almost done. Then in December of 2017, I met up with this producer who I had been working with. This producer's day job, we'll call it, is as a professor at where does he teach? Sacred Heart. Sacred Heart. Great. Yeah. Sacred Heart. There we go.
Thank you, fans.
Thanks. And so it teaches at Sacred Heart, and so this producer was like, "Oh, hey, I'm doing Be More Chill this year because I thought my kids would get a kick out of it because I know you." And so, oh, great. And so I was talking to him about Be More Chill and what was going on with it, and he was like, "Oh, well, let's keep talking about this show." And keep me updated if anything happens with it. And so as all that was going on, he was doing this production at his college, and then he saw firsthand the love of this show from his students, and it made him feel like, wait a minute, there really is something bigger here that's not tapped into. And so that producer is Jerry Gorian, who became our lead producer, who then produced the show off Broadway.
And is producing it on Broadway.
Yes, yeah. Wouldn't it be terrible if I was like, no, we've replaced him for Broadway. David Merrick will be taking over for Broadway.
And definitely our off-Broadway was a test to see if that audience would actually show up, right?
And guess what? The whole run sold
out.
Yeah,
and we were really happy that overwhelmingly the answer was yes. But there was a moment where we were like, we don't know, right?
It was scary. It was really scary. The day we put tickets on sale, it was like, okay, we hope that anyone will actually buy this because it's just never happened before. There's never been a show that opened in a commercial production in New York City based on its cast album going viral, because that has never happened. This just has never happened before. And so everyone hoped that people listening to something on Spotify would translate into them plunking a lot of money down to see a piece of theater, because it costs a lot of money to go see theater. But we just didn't know if it would happen or not.
Well, go ahead.
The day that we sold out, Chase. Where's Chase?
The seat is clear because we're about to bring.
Oh, nice. He was like on his phone and seeing that. He's like, oh my gosh, guys, we only have like 100 tickets left. And then like, oh my God, 50 tickets left. And we hadn't opened yet. We were still in rehearsals. So, then we just started counting down. We're like, oh my God. And we saw it in real time. the show sell out. It was pretty incredible.
I was getting those updates from, I think Jennifer Tepper was tweeting like 5 tickets left, 4 tickets left, and I was like, oh no, and I immediately like went and got one of those last tickets. So thank you, Jennifer Tepper, wherever you are. I want to segue into talking about the actual bioethics of the Squip and the fact that there are actually things kind of like this in the world. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Robert Klitzman from Columbia. That's why Chase so generously gave up his seat. Dr. K, as I understand you like to be called. Before we get to you, I want to ask the 3 gentlemen on stage next to us, was there ever any point where you thought, oh yeah, this could happen? Like, this story, there could be a popular pill.
It's crazy because the book came out in 2004. There were no smartphones in 2004. You know, the idea of having, so the premise of the show in the book, is that this teenage boy in New Jersey finds out about this mysterious technology called a Squip, a super quantum unit Intel processor. It's a tiny computer chip in the form of a pill. He buys it from
a gray oblong pill?
Yeah, gray oblong pill, as the song goes. He buys it from a back room of a Payless shoe store, takes it. When he ingests the chip, a computer is now in his bloodstream, in his brain, and it speaks the voice of Keanu Reeves, and it basically tells him how to be cool, how to survive high school, how to achieve everything that he's always dreamed of, but never known how. And so, it's a computer that is talking to you wherever you go. In 2004, super sci-fi idea. In 2019, not so sci-fi.
Yeah. Dr. K, would you give us a little bit of insight into how this might not be such science fiction after all?
Yes, I have a box of them with me. I'll be standing up.
You have Squips?
$600.
Selling them. So, as a matter of fact, the book is very prescient because, in fact, we do have what are called smart pills that are pills that have a computer chip in them.
It's so weird.
So, yes, it is. And these are used initially, scientifically, it was thought that it would be very beneficial to be able to see what's going on inside your gut. So if we could have a little pill go through your gut, we could be measuring the levels of different acids, and gee, you're producing too much of this or not enough of that, and et cetera. Maybe no one wants the pills now, I don't know. So this is why they were developed, and it was found you could also use these to tell if patients were actually taking their medication or not. So we know that about 75% of the time, or 25% of the time, people aren't taking their medications as they should. None of you, none of us take medications as we should. People in general, I know none of you actually, but patients out there don't always take medications when we prescribe them. Well, if we had a computer chip that would go off if you actually take it, we would know, yes, you did take your medicine today, or no, you did not take your medicine today. And this gets a little bit weird because patients can come in and say, well, yes, I've taken my medication. And the doctor can say, well, according to my computer sheet here, you missed these doses. So those exist and have been developed further and obviously raise a lot of questions. But more importantly now, the US military, our taxpayer dollars, are working on all kinds of neural implants. So on the one hand, these can be helpful for patients, for instance, who have, let's say, a seizure disorder where there's part of the brain that just keeps going. If you could stick an electrode in there and say stop, it'll stop. Also patients with obsessive compulsive disorder where part of the brain just won't give up doing its thing. We can stick an electrode in or leave it there, and whenever the episode occurs, press a button and a little spark will go off and calm the brain down. This starts to get creepy. At the same time, though, the military has developed Franken pets. We have Franken sharks, for instance, where we can now control the shark's brain and tell the brain, go that way and see what the enemy ship is doing.
Wait, so is this a robot, or is this an actual, animal
it's
that they've
shark.
implanted?
We implant it in the brain, and we can make the shark go that way. And we can put a little device and see, oh, the Russians have moved a submarine there.
This is like an episode of Black Mirror.
Does it work on actors?
Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't have to teach blocking anymore.
Yes, exactly. Well, so there are clear advantages of this. We also have Franken mice, where we can tell the mouse, go there and smell if there's an explosive, so we control where the mouse goes. So all this clearly has some benefits. You could argue there might be benefits to people, there might be benefits to society, quote unquote, but clearly there become issues. So what if it gets hacked? right? So in other words, with any of these things, we can hack it, and or someone might be able to hack in. And also when you have, there are devices that can control people's arms. So vets who lose limbs, for instance, we now have devices where we can have the brain tell a machine, move your artificial arm like this. But of course, if it gets hacked, we can say, take this and throw it at you or someone in the audience, for instance. And there are questions that come up about responsibility, and this comes up and I think is really well shown in the play. Who's responsible now if it's a computer moving something? We also, I should say, have, and the show mentions evolution in genes, we now have CRISPR technology where we can alter the genes in a cell. And again, there are potential side effects, potential dangers of maybe taking out the wrong genes, affecting the cell in the wrong way. So there are questions, and there too, of if let's say you have a gene that's responsible for something you're doing, or we've now done something to your brain, if you do something, if the guy in the show, not to give a plot spoiler, if he does something he shouldn't have done, which happens to one of the characters who takes the pill.
Someone commits a crime.
Someone commits a crime, yes. Well, is it him or is it the pill, so to speak? And then there are questions of how do you turn the thing off, which happens in devices. So we have, I should say, we had a patient recently in our hospital who walked in the door and had a left ventricular assist device, which is a machine that makes the heart pump. And he had a big battery like this he used to walk around. He said, I'm sick of carrying this battery, turn the thing off. And we tell him, well, if we turn it off, you'll die. He said, that's fine, I'm sick of carrying this battery, just turn the thing off. So it was an ethical question. So we decided not to do that he walks in the door and he would walk out or leave in a box. But apparently he went to another hospital and they were willing to do it. But the question of if there is a device now implanted in your body, what if you decide, you know what, I've had enough, thank you very much, I want it turned off. Well, we can't always remove these things. And what do we do? And so these are major issues that come up. And again, also as comes up in the book, who should get these things? Some of these technologies could be, is it up to you if you want this? Is it done against your will? Let's say it has benefits, should everyone get it? Some of these are very expensive and so might lead to more inequalities, et cetera.
So Joe, and Stephen, does hearing any of this change anything about how you think about the show?
It's fascinating, oh my God. And terrifying.
I haven't been able to process one thought since Frankenshark. I just can't stop thinking about it. I'm so excited.
Is it too late to add a Frankenshark
It is
somewhere?
not. It is simply
Probably have the
not.
budget for that,
Yeah. See you on Broadway, Frankenshark.
I mean, Frankenshark the musical sounds pretty exciting to me.
Yeah.
But Stephen, I think you landed, or maybe it was you, Joe, who said you could use this on actors. Really,
well, it is.
They might show up for rehearsal on time.
Well, so the device is called a Squip, and it's not a coincidence that it sounds like script because part of and this, we have a song later that will tap into this theme, but the idea of making choices is hard. If there was something that could help guide you through those, making those difficult choices, whether it is the supercomputer in your head or whether it's following directions, like when you're doing theater and you have the thing to say is written right in front of you, well, wouldn't that make life easier? And yet, sometimes these things that make life easier also complicate our lives in ways that maybe we didn't think when we set off on that path in the first place. And so when you're talking about, thinking through the implications of the technology, if you don't think through the potential consequences ahead of time, you may find yourself experiencing consequences you didn't expect.
Yeah, and I think that's a great theme, and part of why the play I think is important and resonates so is because it highlights our need to think through the fact that technologies have both good and bad. Be it the internet, Facebook, these things have certain advantages, but obviously, as we've seen with the last election, can have disadvantages as well, and it's sort of how we use them. And I think to get people to realize when there's a lot of hype about a new technology that it's not all great.
The same is true for medication. I mean, we all see these commercials on TV where it's like, it'll make you sweat less, but it also could kill you, I love the comparison you made, Joe, between Squip and Script, because as you mentioned, there is a character who finds joy in the script that she gets when she goes to play rehearsal, and that's the perfect time for us to bring out Ms. Stephanie Hsu to sing that very song for us. And Joe, I hope you'll do us the honors again. Welcome, Stephanie.
Yay, it's tiny now. Okay. It's okay. I was in it. You know, too many cooks, they make the soup bad, so. That's what my mom says. Okay. I love play rehearsal because it's the best! Because it is fun. Thanks for coming to the Guggenheim. I hope you like the Sharks. I love play rehearsal, and I get depressed as soon as it's done. But not depressed as in like kill yourself depressed. No, I'm not into self-harm. Dude, I swear here, check my arm. See, I just use the word to emphasize a point. Show the passion that I've got. I am passionate a lot. I have mad gigantic feelings, red and frantic feelings about most everything. Like gun control, like spring. Like if I'm living up to all I'm meant to be. I also have a touch of ADD. Where was I? Oh, right! I love play rehearsal, 'cause you are equipped with directions and text. Life is easy in rehearsal. You follow a script, so you know what comes next. Anywho, the point that I'm getting to is sometimes life can't work out in the way it works out in the play. Like the only time I get to be the center of attention is when I'm Juliet or Blanche Dubois. And can I mention that was really one of my best roles? Did you see that? Oh, thank you, Joe. Yeah, I was incredibly vulnerable, I think. You know, it made me feel like there just aren't strong roles for women in the theater these days, particularly high school theater. Do you find that? Because I totally find that. And no matter how hard I try, it's impossible to narrow down the many reasons why I love play rehearsal. I happiness cry as soon as it starts. It's just so universal, getting to try playing so many parts. Most humans do one thing for all of their lives. The thought of that gives me hives. I have so many interests I want to pursue. And why am I telling this to you? Guess there's a part of me that wants to. There's also a part of me that wants to do this. So I did it! We're in a museum. Back to play rehearsal. My brain is like psst. My heart is like wow. Because we're here at play rehearsal. And it's starting. We're starting. It's starting. Soon.
Thanks, Stephanie. That was great. One of my favorite moments in the show. So Dr. K, I've got one last question for you, and then we're going to bring Chase back. If Squips, a pill that could make you popular, did come onto the market, what's the argument for and against from an ethical perspective?
It's a great question. Presumably there'd be side effects, right? No pill is without side effects. So the question would be, are the advantages such that they would outweigh the side effects? So I think that just to make you popular, despite as poignant as we saw in the first number, how horrible it can be to not feel that way, to be by yourself in the bathroom. For most people manage to get through that somehow without having potential side effects, heart disease, et cetera, that could come from a pill. So I think if someone has a major depression, if someone's unable to function, then a pill the benefits would outweigh the risks of whatever the side effects are. But if there are side effects, you want to make sure that it's something that people would not just be able to get over through psychotherapy, which is no side effects, or just getting through life as one does.
It might be better to wait to see if you're cool in college, is what you're saying?
Well, many of us had to do that, yes.
I am so excited about having this very intellectual way of now seeing the show. I think, Joe Iconis, you said when we first sat down something about that in the book that Ned Vizzini tends to write these characters that seem kind of fun and light on the outside, but then there's this deep meaning underneath. And I think this information that you've given us, this perspective, is a way of going even deeper into Be More Chill. And I'm certainly going to be watching it from that perspective when I go on February 13th, when performances start at the Lyceum Theater. I want to bring Chase back out, so thank you so much. And I hope you'll be joining us upstairs for the reception. Man, I could talk to that guy for like a week about this stuff. Hi, Chase.
That was fascinating.
Isn't it? Yeah. I really, like you, Joe, I am obsessed with these Frankensharks, and
I know.
I don't understand. Like, can we get like a Franken puppy that will never like have an accident in the house?
We have them.
Okay, so we only have about 10 minutes left, and we do have one number that we're going to see, a duet. Before we get there, I want to talk about this program's called Works and Process, and you guys have put on a completed show, but you're in the process of bringing it to Broadway. And I think that I personally would love to know what's going on right now that goes beyond just moving the set from second stage to the Lyceum, updating the logo, and practicing choreography on a bigger stage.
Yeah, in a nice way, it's a room full of people who are constantly striving to do better and to figure out how we can keep telling the story in a deeper way that provides more moments of resonance for our audience. So we've been talking a lot about how to sharpen the point of view of technology in the show, and trying to talk a lot more about how we choose to use technology rather than technology just being a kind of evil force in our musical, right? So we're working on that theme really kind of hardcore right now. We're also really trying to make sure that the musical is telling a story that this isn't just about issues that we have in high school, right? That there are certain moments in my life where I wish I had a Squip, right? There are moments where I'm like, I wish I had somebody telling me how to navigate this moment, right? And so we're making sure that that story is being told as loudly as possible in this musical, amongst millions of other little things that we're doing. Yeah, there is the technicality of like, how do we fit the dances in this kind of different space, and how do we adapt the kind of the nitty-gritty of that, but we're just really pushing as hard as we can to deepen the piece and provide as many moments of kind of connective tissue with our audience.
Joe's, will there be any surprises for those of us who know the previous versions very well?
Yeah, there always will be. I mean, I think that it's certainly script-wise, I feel like there's been more rewrites from off-Broadway to Broadway, even than there were from Two River to off-Broadway. Mm-hmm. Like as Stephen said, the idea that any of these characters could be the protagonists of the show. They all have the thing they're struggling with. They all have the choices they're trying to navigate. To make sure we're really telling the story. It's not just, Jeremy is our entryway, we enter the story through his head. And then, ironically, as he gets this thing inside of his own head, he starts to gain insight into the struggles and challenges of everyone in his life, from his classmates to his father. So finding ways to, as Stephen said, deepen that story and tell the story in a really rich way has been for me the big joy and challenge.
Anything to add, other Joe?
Just that, I think that fans of the show, people who are sort of going in, knowing the songs and knowing the scenes and all that, I think they're totally going to be delighted by the changes that we're making and surprised. That's my hope anyway, and I hope that people who have no familiarity with the show will come in and be equally as thrilled with what we've been cooking up. We truly are just trying to make the best Be More Chill that we possibly can, and I think that all of the stuff that we've been doing, all the work we've been doing, it's still it's still in the world of making the show better and not just different. It's like we're actually making it better, I think.
Any questions you're still trying to answer for yourselves, any of you?
Like about life in general, or
beyond how do I get a Frankenshark?
Yeah.
Like, is there anything that you are still nagging at you that you're working out in rehearsals right now? You don't have to give me specifics. I'm just fascinated by the process because I never get to see the process.
I mean, it is weird. We're staging the show for the third time as a team, and just like when you go see a show and it's different, there's a word that's different. We still hear those old versions. So a lot of it, especially as you lived with the show for 5 years and you're making changes, trying to sort of break it sounds this way in my head because it's sounded this way in my head for 5 years. And to introduce that new idea in a way that feels, I think we've done it so many points in rehearsal room where I'm like, wow, I never thought that moment could play any differently than what it had played for 5 years, and yet seeing it this way, I never want to see it any way else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's so funny too, I always find that sometimes if, for lines or, songs, whatever, moments that have been in the script for so long, I'll look at them and I'll just think like, oh, this can't possibly change because that's just the way it is. That's the way it's written. I can't mess with that. But then it's like, oh, wait a minute, I'm the person who wrote it. Do you ever forget that you actually wrote those lines? I do all the time. Like, I have the ability to change whatever I want because I wrote it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Chase, how much change in the choreography did you have to do to move to such a more massive space?
I mean, the funny thing about the actual physical space is I think it's almost the exact same size, or maybe even like 9 inches less deep than it was off Broadway. So it's actually is not about making it larger, but I think we're trying to find the most woke version of these characters and to really speak in the most woke way to our audience who is coming to see themselves in this piece. In fact, you're about to see some new choreography that we've been working on in the last couple of days, even on this number, as we try and make all the elements align. So at the end of the number, you're about to see the boys sort of step into the video game that they're playing, and we're really working hard with our violence team to basically introduce ideas in the video game that the boys are playing that will come around later in the play when they need those tools. Is sort of in the real world. I won't give away why, and that also involves animation that our projection designer is doing. So we have a little more time and a little more runway to try and make all the elements align. So that's part of what we're doing choreographically in this version.
What is a violence team?
An amazing team led by David Brimmer, who are there to essentially choreograph and direct and sculpt and help us tell any of the parts of the story that have to do with stage combat or
They're usually called fight directors, but on our first day of rehearsal, they all introduce themselves to the room as Team Violence. And we were like, okay.
That sounds like another name of a new musical.
They introduce themselves as Violence, Associate Violence, Assistant Violence, Assistant to the Violence.
And it just stuck.
That sounds like maybe the next pill after the Squip. If you don't want to be popular, you could just get real violent. It's been such a joy to have you all here, especially to talk not just about the work, but about the process. And we are just about out of time. In fact, this last number that you were just talking about, two-player game, is going to be the end of our program. So I want to thank Dr. K. I want to thank Duke and Caroline, and everybody at Works in Process and the Guggenheim for having us. Our panelists, you're all so fantastic. And I hope all of you will join us upstairs for a reception immediately following our final number. So let's bring out Will Roland and George Salazar.
Props! We got one of these now.
Woo. So we can move. It's just like rent. Joe made that joke, but I said it louder.
Apocalypse of the Damned!
Level 9! The Cafeteria!
Find the bad guy, push him aside, then move on forward with your friend at your side. It's a two-player game, so when they make an attack, you know you got a brother gonna have your back. Then you stay on track, and I'll remain on course. And if they give you a smack, you gotta use your force. And if you leave your brother behind, it's lame, cause it's an effed up world, but it's a two-player game. Hey!
So what do you think?
He's scamming you. He's scamming you super weirdly.
Yeah, but what if he's not? I mean, this could be huge. All I have to do is give the guy who torments me 600. He's totally scamming me. I'm doomed to be a loser till the end of the world. No, probably then too.
No way. You're like that Crystal Pepsi I bought on eBay that expired in 1996.
No longer safe for human consumption?
Better with age. Dude, you are cooler than a vintage cassette. It's just that no one else but me thinks that yet. You're just a nothing in this high school scheme, but it's no big cause you and I are a team. We like out of print games, retro skates, got a Pac-Man tattoo. Nobody here appreciates, but soon we'll be together where they do. Cause guys like us are cool in college, cool in college, this I know. Guys like us are cool in college, cool in college, listen bro. High school is hell, but we navigate it well, cause what we do is we make it a two-player game. Zombie! Watch out!
As losers, we have fought together for years. Nintendo zombies and our popular peers. Now we're stuck on a level and I wanna move on.
Just wait 2 years, we're upon. You'll realize
Guys like us are cool in college. Cool in college, won't be lame. Dude, I know, I get it. Guys like us are cool in college, but we're not in college.
all the same. High school is whack, but we have each other's back. It's me and you, we've made it a two-player game. Ah!
Oh.
Zombie! Blood! Claws!
Pause. You know that you are my favorite person. That doesn't mean that I can't still dream.
Is it really true? I'm your favorite person.
Yes, we're never not gonna be a team. High school is shit, and you gotta help me conquer it. It's just what we do. We make it a two-player game.
Find the bad guy, push him aside. Then move on forward with your friend at your side. It's a two-player game, so when they make an attack, you know you got a brother gonna have your back. Then you stay on track, and I'll remain on course. If they give you a smack, you gotta use your force. And if you leave your brother behind, it's lame, cause it's an effed up world and it's a two-player game. Hey!